Hello.
Welcome back to another stream. We promised it would be exciting stream this time, and hopefully we're here to deliver on that promise.
Yeah,
I think we are.
we've got some new stuff we're going to talk about today. I think you guys will be excited.
Yeah, it's stuff you might have heard percolating around if you were in the Discord or talking to any of us over the last couple months. But yeah, we kind of got a bold title, Best 3D Print Farm Software of 2022.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're working our hardest to live up to that expectation. And today we'll actually be talking about Quinly for Print Farms, or also known as Quinly Pro. Um, Going through what we have planned, uh, the beta program for it, different features, and just talking about um, where we kind of are with 3D print farm software and how we're looking to improve that with Quinly Pro. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty packed episode. Uh, nice to see everyone in chat. Again, make sure to post any questions you've got. Uh, and yeah, we'll just kind of be talking about a whole bunch of exciting stuff that's going to be coming out in this next software release.
yeah. So this one's going to be, they've been working on it for quite a while. But this is the original idea behind Quinly was to automate print farms. So this is actually the software that we've been working towards this whole time.
Yeah.
And Quinly, as it is currently, is kind of like a taste of what we're going to bring to print farms.
Yeah, I think for those of you who don't know, before we even released Quinly, we were working on like fully fledged print farm software. It was just due to the pandemic that we kind of pivoted to working on individual printers. So it's nice to be able to dust off like 2-year-old code
Yeah.
and start implementing it again for everyone to use. Yeah, so we'll be talking about what you can expect, some of the decisions we've made uh, based off talking with everyone in the community, what the workflow might look like, and yeah, it's like how it will really change how you run your print farm.
So, Mateo, here's a question. Why do print farms need to be automated?
Why?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I think we've seen, especially in the last couple of years, that 3D printing, there's, with the way supply chain and manufacturing has been affected by, random events,
Yeah.
and just in general, like even pre-COVID, there were issues with supply chains and shortages, usually based off of, political things or just random natural disasters.
Yeah.
We've seen that 3D printing offers an amazing opportunity for manufacturing, and countless print farms sprung up in the last 2 years, trying to seize that opportunity.
Mhm.
And you know, pretty much
The COVID print farms, right?
yeah,
People
COVID
picking
print
up 3D
farms.
printing during the peak of the pandemic because they've got nothing better to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, saw a pretty big insurgence of people just getting printers.
and a lot of them ended up, they might have started out doing COVID related stuff, but they saw the opportunity of having their own, you know, basically little manufacturing plant and going into all of these niches where they could use their knowledge and expertise to design really, really cool products, make it themselves, and then sell it themselves as well. So there's a huge opportunity out there for 3D printing and 3D printed products. And the reason for automating it is that as a print farm, like everyone here are print farm operators, and I know a lot of the people watching are as well. There is just a lot of friction when it comes to trying to scale up your operation and also just using 3D printers at any scale. Just in general, there's a lot of friction with the workflow. And
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about, what's out there already, what we're planning to do differently, and how that can bring value to you as a print farm operator.
Yeah, because one of the problems, I guess, during COVID, maybe not a problem, but people who were running printers had a lot of free time on their hands because they were at home all the time, didn't have anything better to do, maybe working remotely, and the I guess the inconvenience of running a printer manually wasn't felt so much. But now that things are getting back up and running, um, when you're away from your 3D printer like 8 to 16 hours a day, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to keep any sort of printing going on 24/7. Like you're not going to do it. So that's I think why automation is kind of the reasonable next step for 3D printing in general, but specifically for print farms or people who are printing parts that they eventually incorporate into products or sell. Just the ability to have that continuous production going when you're not around to babysit it essentially is way more valuable than most people even realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I remember hearing stories of people when they were first doing the face shields where they would sleep next to their printers and wake up, at 3 a.m. just to get another cycle in because they were trying to run the printers as hard as possible. And, that works for a little while, but, humans tend to burn out and it's clearly not a good solution. Luckily, everyone was printing just one thing, but
Yeah.
it's kind of not feasible long term. And so how do we, make that easier and again, like remove that
The friction, eh?
intense friction, yeah.
Yeah, like I've woken up to restart 3D prints before, and it really destroys my whole next day because
Yeah.
my sleep's been split into two really bad chunks,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, it just ruins my next day, and I've had to do that 2 days in a row, just like,
My favorite is you set an alarm, but the estimate was not accurate, and
yeah,
you're waiting like 20 minutes.
yeah, you just have to like stay awake, but
Yeah.
try to get into the state of sleep where you could go back to sleep easily, but you have to stay there for 20 minutes. It's really hard.
Yeah, so we really don't want that. And that's why we've spent 3 years building software. It's to solve that specific problem.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to see
Looks like we have
everyone.
some
Yeah.
people in chat.
So, hey to Brian and nice to see you, Joe. Make sure, yeah, if you got any questions as we go through this, post them in chat. This is a live discussion. So, yeah, so what should we start with? I guess we should outline what's coming in this next update. So a lot of people out there who are already using Quinly have seen the benefits of automating their machines, one machine at a time, where you were, previously you were having to constantly manage and babysit the machine, so clean the print bed, cycle parts. With Quinly, you don't have to do that anymore. You can run individual machines 24/7. But as people start to get more and more machines, there's still a lot of overhead to running these printers, especially a group of printers. And so we're going to be talking about how that's going to change with this next update. The whole idea behind Quinly Pro, this new update, is connecting your printers together as one cohesive unit. So you're no longer thinking about individual printers running to this printer, running to that printer, and having to think about how you're going to schedule parts on different machines. It's more like you're now going to have this one print farm and you're going to interact with it through one interface, and that will just simplify a lot of those decisions and small time losses that you get running a print farm.
Because one of the main issues when you scale up a print farm is that you still have to micromanage every printer. And, well, by upgrading to Quinly, you get rid of a ton of that micromanagement, but you don't eliminate it entirely. So our idea behind Quinly Pro is to get rid of essentially all the micromanagement involved with running a print farm, to the point where you can almost just set the prints going on Monday and then come back on Friday and pick them all up. Like that's the kind of level that you want to have of automation and just management. You don't want to have to go to your printer every single like 8-hour chunk, and just running your printers as like a whole group rather than multiple individuals really like makes it a lot easier to send jobs to multiple printers and track what's going on, what you printed, what you still need to print. Um, these are all things that Quinly Pro is designed to solve.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna play this video in
Yeah,
the
it sounds good.
background while we talk about this. This is like scheduling about a week's worth of parts in 30 seconds. Um, but yeah, one of the important things I think, kind of thinking back on when I got my first printer and then got my second printer, I didn't feel like, so when I got my first printer, it was great. And I had enough demand to justify getting a second printer. And when I got that second printer, I didn't feel like I had a print farm necessarily. I felt
Mhm.
like I had two printers that I had to
Yeah,
manage all the time. And what kind of sucked about it was that I knew that every printer I added, I'm not going to get a cohesive farm out of it. I'm just going to get another printer I had to manage. And so the automation reduced the amount of what Quinly now reduces the amount of management you have to do. It reduces it by like 95%. In some cases, there was a study where it reduced it by 97%.
yeah,
And that's really good for scaling up in the short term, because now, even if you do have to add another printer, you're barely managing it. But when it comes to larger operations and when you're actually looking at it for manufacturing, there's still a lot of overhead to running production, like scheduling parts on different machines. And so that's what we're saying with Quinly Pro is all your machines will be connected up, and that overhead is also going to be managed for you. And that's what's the really exciting part about it is. So I think maybe we should outline what exactly, there are a couple like main, I guess, headers for what Quinly Pro provides. So the first one is the multi-printer hub, which has been requested very, very often and actually is open for beta testing as of this week. So if you're interested in trying it out and you have more than one Quinly printer, um, check your inbox if you're signed up. If you're not, there's a link in the Discord as well where you can sign up, and there will be this Friday we're going to have a kickoff call with everyone
mhm.
that's participating in the beta, and we're going to be basically talking about what to expect with the multi-printer hub, and actually doing a bit of brainstorming and gathering initial feedback.
Well, for those who don't know, what is multi-printer hub?
Oh yeah, I should explain. Sorry, I got a bit ahead of myself. Multi-printer hub um, allows you to connect more than one printer to a single Pi. So the issue right now is that if anyone has tried to buy a Pi in the last 4 months, you'll know that they're very hard to get, and they're also very expensive right now. Um, what we tried to do in the winter was to find an alternative device to the Raspberry Pi. And so we started offering that, but even those are hard to get a hold of now. So in order to try and relieve some of the strain of the chip shortage, we're working on the multi-printer hub, which is essentially a version of Quinly where you can connect multiple printers to a single Raspberry Pi or wireless hub and run them all from that one device. The other part of that is we've also restructured kind of the stack for our software. And I know that sounds really boring, but what that means for you is that our software is now closer and closer to being able to run on any device. So you might not necessarily need a Raspberry Pi. You could perhaps use, a small PC or something like that.
And then
Um,
run like many instances of Quinly
Way
on that
more if
on
you
that.
wanted to. Yeah. So that's what we're talking about with the multi-printer hub. Um, we're starting with the Pi and the wireless hub that we offer, but over time, over the beta period, it's going to open up to non Raspberry Pi and non wireless hub devices, which I think is very exciting for a lot of the operators we speak to, because um, actually it's a big limiting factor to scaling your print farm is
Yeah, you
just
just don't have
you don't
access
have it.
to the little tiny computer that runs Quinly.
Yeah,
And it's really annoying because, that's, we don't even want to have like these little devices that have to
yeah,
run Quinly. We'd rather just have, you know, be able to sell Quinly and not have to worry about these Raspberry Pis or Rock 64s.
yeah.
So
And
this
in
is definitely a
some
step forward.
in some regions, they're just such a pain to get. Like we've seen here, you can't get a Pi 4 for less than $200, and I think that's insane. Now, if you're able to run, two, three, four, five printers from a single device, that actually brings your cost per printer way down to like $40 or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's that benefit as well. And I know this has been this is a long time coming, but it's definitely been an issue scaling farms. It's just the availability of these devices. If we can get it running on, you know, there some people have gotten stuff running on Android phones even
Yeah.
because
Seen that.
because of the shortage. That's the kind of thing we want to move towards with the multi-printer hub. So yeah, if you're interested in trying it, if you got more than one Quinly and want to try it, definitely sign up for the beta. It's in the Discord. The link is in the description of the video. There's even a discount running if you want to get more kits, and you want to participate in the beta. You can get a discount on that too. So that's the first part of Pro. So relieving scaling issues due to supply shortages.
Yeah. So if you already have like a couple Pis or wireless hubs and you want to add more printers to your farm, you don't need to buy more Pis or hubs. You can just connect your printers to the ones you already have.
Yeah.
So that helps everyone. It's a win-win.
There's actually some good questions from Robert here. He said he's watching Naruto, but this is a better use of his time. So he was saying, what is the maximum of printers one Pi can handle with the powered USB hub? That's what we're aiming to find out with the beta. Right now, we've tested just two, but we're getting a USB splitter in so we can test more, and we're also bringing people into the beta so we can make sure that as we add more and more printers, it's working for everyone rather than just testing it here in isolation. And as we do progress through the beta, it also provides people the opportunity to give feedback during development instead of afterwards, and you can actually shape how this works to your application, which a lot of people liked. We actually did that with the UI and got really, really positive feedback on that.
Yeah, because you guys are the ones using it, so we want to know how to make it look and feel so that it works the best. Seems like there's someone else trying to figure this out on their
Yeah,
Raspberry Pi.
he says he's trying to work on that right now, more than one printer on a Pi. Yeah, it is it's a bit tricky because there are a lot of things you have to consider, and we'll talk about how, because you can actually do that already with things like Octofarm, but there are a lot of limitations to how they've implemented it that we're trying to solve, and we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah. So like most things we do, we want this to be essentially plug and play, not having to do any complicated setup or any coding or command line stuff. Yeah, the idea is to make it as plug and play as possible. Because yeah, it can get really complicated when you want to do multiple instances of something on a Pi.
Oh yes, Steph's reminding us the kickoff call is actually tomorrow on Thursday, not on Friday. So
Good point.
yeah, yeah.
So
And-
check the Discord as well. I think
Yeah.
Mateo's posted on the software changelog channel.
Yeah, there will be an announcement there. Henry's asking, do all the printers connected to one hub have to be the same? So that's a really good question, and the answer is no. And that's part of what I was mentioning earlier about implementing it differently and making it easier to install, where you can just plug in any mix of machines, Enders, Prusa, CR10s, whatever. Quinly already has this feature that it will adjust to the type of machine that it's plugged in, and we can build off of that so that you really don't have to think about it when you're installing it. You can just, grab your hub, plug a bunch of machines in. It will automatically configure it for you, and you'll just see your machines in a single interface.
Yeah. So it's, I think if you set up Octoprint, for example, on like an Ender or a Prusa or something, it's going to take a lot more work than just plugging it into a Quinly,
Yeah,
into a hub.
you basically have to set up, and this is again this story we keep hearing from the the print farms we work with is right with the software that's out there right now. There are two things. One is you have to set up every single machine you connect, and that takes a lot of time. And some print farms have invested the hundreds of hours that it takes to do that, but it makes it very difficult to add more and more machines. The other thing is that some software is just purpose built for one type of printer. So things like Prusa Connect is made for Prusas only, and we know, even we have a mix of printers in our farm, but many people have mixes of printers, and that doesn't really cut it. And trying to modify it might be really difficult as well. Henry's asking, could you create a queue for two printers, example, two enders with a set amount of G codes that Quinly will automatically? Oh, okay. Okay, so that's the next thing that we'll talk about, which is more of the pro features. So yeah, hopefully so far this is sounding really good. This is like one of the four big things that's coming out with Pro. So yeah, multiple machines, any type of machine into a single Pi or hub, and in the future doesn't even have to be a Pi.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. The setup process that you have to go through with current software, all of that will be taken care of for you in the back end. That means a lot of work for us, but it means install on your end becomes very, very simple, and all you need to ever worry about is when am I going to get the next printer? When am I going to be printing enough to attach another machine? So that part is very exciting, I think, for a lot of people.
Print farms, I've heard them saying like it takes a long time to even set up the first Octoprint installation.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll take like a week because you get tired and you don't want to do it all in one day, or you just literally can't figure something out and you have to ask somebody online, and it's like a forum thing, so you have to wait for them to respond, and it takes 5 or 6 messages to get a response. And a lot of the time, it just takes a long time to figure this out. So we're doing as much as we can to make it literally plug and play. Just put your Wi-Fi in and connect to the internet. There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely like there's something that we discovered when I was beta testing the Prusa Mini, where there's some weird quirk with the filament out, and we're beta testing this with a farm that has, I think they have like 30 of them. And he before he started switching to Quinly, he was using OctoFarm, and he said there was an issue with the Prusa Mini that was reported, I think it was sometime in 2019, and it wasn't solved for an entire year. And that issue was filament out not working. And that's like for a farm, that is a very critical feature. But the thing is, with open software that is not, directly supported by anyone, that type of thing can happen where critical features just are not resolved for years sometimes.
Yeah, there's like no responsible person who like is incentivized to work on it. And if it's just the print farm that wants filament runout detection, then the print farm guy has to do it himself, or like get someone to do it for him, and sometimes that's not possible. So the fact that we're working on this and that we want this to be as good as possible means that feature requests and bug fixes will get taken care of much sooner than an open source software like Octoprint.
And the fact that as a if you participate in the beta, or if you just use Quinly in general, when you have issues, that becomes the top of our priority, because we want you to be printing as much as possible, and you want your farm to be running as much as like as at high a throughput as possible. And so, it's critical for us that as soon as something like that comes up, we're immediately working on the fix so that your farm doesn't get affected. Joe's asking where can he go to download the beta? In the description of this video, there's a link to our Discord group. You can go there and respond to the message in software changelog asking for beta testers. The other place you can do it is if you go to 3dq.com and sign up on there should be a beta mailing list that you can sign up for, and then you'll get an invite to one of the calls tomorrow.
Cool. So shall we move on to another Quinly Pro feature?
Yeah. What do
Right.
you want to talk about?
Well, I think the centralization aspect of Quinly Pro, connecting all your printers together is super important.
Yeah. So I think going back to that story of, as I was adding more printers, before all of this, as I was adding more printers, it felt like I was just adding more things to manage rather than building a print farm.
More printers, more work.
Yeah, basically. And this is something, with a lot of the people we talk to, they kind of experience the same thing. Usually there's a linear correlation between the amount of printers you have and the amount of time you're spending or the amount of people you're hiring to run them. So that's okay to an extent, but at some point you will run out of time and you'll also run out of sleep, and you just can't add more printers.
There's like a maximum limit of number of printers that one person can run along with all the other tasks that are involved with running a print farm in a day.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make that not like a linear thing, but more of like I guess it'll eventually flatten out to be, you can actually scale up your print farm much larger, and every new printer is almost a minuscule amount of additional work. That's these cool backgrounds.
Yeah, I wanted to switch the background.
Switch it up a little, yeah.
Yeah, so what that means though is there's the whole automation aspect of it, but then there's actually managing the farm as a single thing as a whole. So right now, based off our experience and based off people we've talked to, there's actually, in particular, one farm was talking about this, where currently they have around 30 machines, and their current farm management system is just SD cards, because they found that setting up like a farm software was too complicated, or would just take too much time, and their machines were a little bit custom and so weren't fully supported. So what they do is they just stuck to SD cards, and that poses a big problem, because every single printer has an SD card that you have to manage file versions on, and you have to, whenever you slice a new file that you want on your farm, you have to put it on every SD card for the printers that you want to run it. You also need to like version control becomes a really big problem as well, because if you make an update to a sliced file, you have to then make sure that every SD card is updated, otherwise you might be printing old versions and new versions.
It was like Benchy, final.
Yeah, Benchy.
You have to make sure that they're all final.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's going to be bad.
Benchy, yeah, final, real.
V2.
V2.
Yeah, and that gets really messy really quickly.
Yeah.
Actually, it hurts my soul to know that there's like a 30 printer farm out there that runs SD cards.
Yeah, and actually that there's another farm that was like, okay, SD cards is, running around with SD cards is too painful, so I'm going to set up Octoprint on every single printer. But what Octoprint basically does is just gives you remote, it's basically like 30 SD cards, but on one interface, which is, marginally better because you can do it all from your computer, but version control is still completely manual across the farm. And that can get really tiresome, especially if you want to run jobs across all 30 machines. It just gets very complicated to do.
So there's like a lot of redundancy that you have, like redundant task. You have to upload file to all your printers,
Yeah.
and then you have to delete all the old files to make sure that they're all
Yeah.
gone, and then upload the new ones. And you have to do that for every printer in your farm.
For every printer. And it just, yeah.
So it's like having 30 SD cards right on your screen in
It's
front
like,
of you, but they're still SD cards. It's just you don't have to walk to the printer anymore.
it's marginally better, and it takes so long to set up that some people decide not to set it up at all and just stick with SD cards because it's only a marginal improvement. And now it's nice to be able to see like the print progress on one screen, but yeah, it's like a very marginal improvement. What we're doing with Quinly Pro is
Sorry, Val the Builder's like, that's me.
that's that's Bao.
Is
Yeah,
this Val?
exactly. Bao, let tell us some SD card stories in the chat because yeah, you would know. I think you have more printers than when we were setting up our farm before we put them all in Quinly, we were doing it via SD card. We had that big
Yeah.
print job, remember? It was like the Wong boxes,
Yeah, we could do like tons of those.
hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And they were 14 different colors. And we kept having to iterate because they were so hard to print correctly.
We had some weird filament that actually required different settings for
Every
different
filament,
PLAs.
every filament.
So we had different slices
It
for
was
different
so
filament
bad.
colors, and they were all different version numbers too, and it was all on SD cards, and it was really annoying.
Yeah, it was. And then we would keep, like, I remember when I was doing QC, there'd like be old versions that kept getting printed and just wasting filament because it was too difficult. We had like 40 enders set up manually before we built them into the.
Yeah, we had them on cardboard boxes and stuff in
Yeah.
different rooms.
It was so bad. It was really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like our experience with SD cards. And what I've heard with Octofarm is, like I said, it's marginally better in that you can get to those SD cards from an online interface. Like, but each printer has its own set of files. And so what we're working on with Quinly Pro, and this is actually more complex to implement than you would expect, but it's very simple to use, is a central file system. So it's like one place where you keep all your files, and that one file can be sent to any printer in your farm. And if you update that one file, that updated file also is spread to every single printer in your farm. So there's no more SD card, like fiddling with SD cards. That's an issue that's been solved. The other thing that's really nice is being able to, if you're in the middle of a production run, you will also just be able to update a version without having to go stop every single machine in your farm, copy a new version onto it, and then restart it. You will just be able to do that. I think it's literally like 3 clicks, which would just be you upload a new file, you delete the old job, and you start the new job in the queue, and then it would just continue with the new file.
Yeah.
So it's like very, very simple.
And that's across all your printers as
Yeah.
well. It doesn't, so you just have to upload one file instead of 30, and you only have to delete one file instead of 30 copies of the same file. And so what about things like folders and like what kind of
why don't we show that?
Sure. Yeah.
So anyone that's that's using Quinly right now will know that earlier, I guess it was last year, we added the folder system for organization. So this is actually a printer that's currently printing on our print farm. It's printing Quinly parts. And this is how we decided to organize folders. So we have different versions. So like this is all the parts for the Prusa Quinly. This is all the parts for the Ender Quinly. Looks like we have some newer updated parts for the Ender Quinly.
Oh yeah, we're updating the whole
yeah.
look of Quinly. That's coming later. But
Yeah. But so like
sneak preview.
the thing that we added that a lot of people really liked for production was this ability to bulk manage G-code. And what I mean by that is actually Robert's comment here is good. Is a good example of this. Let me just make sure it's all in the.
It's a long comment.
Yeah, it's a. Here we go.
I'll get out of the way.
So Robert's saying Raise Cloud takes it another step further, but that takes a while to set up too, and having to go in and say the print finish successfully, start next print on every machine is no fun either. I have a question, Robert. Is Raise Cloud only for Raise products, or can you connect other machines to it as well? Because what we're talking about here is going to be across, whatever printer you connect to it.
Yeah, so you won't be locked down to any printer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any printer that can be upgraded with Quinly will get access to this. So going back to this, we were talking about, basically this is what you would have on an SD card, and you'd have to keep track of all of these files on your SD card, and just whenever a new version comes out, delete, like, let's say I designed a new E5 front wrap SM V2.2.1. We make a V2.2.2. I would have to go in, delete it from all the SD cards, update all the SD cards, put it back in all the printers. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just delete them from here. But the other really nice thing is with the queue system, and a lot of people were very excited about this. If you want to print all of these things, all you have to do is select them all and just add them to the queue, and you can set how many of each you want, and you just send it, and that's it. Should I send it?
Yeah,
Okay.
send it. Yeah, we need those parts anyway.
Yeah, we do. Okay,
so that entire list of prints is actually probably about I think 24 hours of printing, maybe a little bit more.
So
we just did that in about 15 seconds.
I just scheduled an entire day's worth of printing. Yeah.
And you could have multiplied them all by 10, and then that would have actually been like a week's worth of printing.
Right.
Just, that's done. We can just collect those parts later.
Yeah. So anytime you're making something that has different, this is a kit, so it has a lot of different parts in it, but I can send an entire kit to print sequentially in a matter of seconds. Now with Quinly Pro, this gets taken to another level. Currently, with the current Quinly system, you have a different tab for each printer, and you have a different file organization for each printer as well. This files page is going to be centralized across every printer in your farm. As I mentioned, changes will be updated or propagated automatically, updated on all printers for you. So that's actually a huge time saving.
So you just have one tab.
Yeah.
You don't need to have multiple tabs for multiple Quinlys.
But the really cool thing is, because all of your files are in one place now, when you hit add to queue, you'll be able to not just have all the files go to one printer, but have the files get distributed across all the compatible printers in your farm. And what I mean by that is all the printers that are loaded with the correct filament color, because you don't want these to just go to a farm and get printed in random colors. And if you have a farm of mixed printers, you might want, if the parts are too big, you don't want them to be printed on smaller machines. So there is like a level of logic and a level of decision making that you normally would have had to do manually, like, oh, I can only print this part on Enders and Prussias and not a Prusia Mini. That gets taken care of for you as well. So all you ever really have to care about is, what do I want to print and how many of them do I want to be printed? And then Quinly Pro will deal with the distribution of the files, will deal with actually printing and clearing, like doing the whole print cycle for you on all the printers in your farm, assigning it to specific printers. Like literally all of that gets taken for you with the central file system and the central queue.
So if I have 3 Enders with black filament all loaded, and then like some other printers with other filament, I can just say, I want 9 copies of this part, and then each Ender will get three prints assigned to it.
Yeah, You can, well, it depends how you set it up. So there's a couple options. One option is to do it, distribute it across the farm. The other option is to send it to a specific machine or
Hmm.
specific set of machines. Um, Robert says, okay, he's given us a bit more information about Raise Cloud. So there is like plugins for Raise Cloud, but you have to then set up Octoprint for Prusa and also set up the Raise Cloud plugin in Octoprint and make sure all of that works together. Which again goes back to like having to spend a lot of time setting it up. And it also, Robert's saying that he hasn't tried it because there's no automation in this setup. Um, which, yeah, I guess that makes sense because like if it requires so much effort to get it working, it's probably easier just to do it manually. And I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of progression in the space of farm software is because a lot of the times it's so difficult to set it up because there's still so much manual work that goes along with it that really all you see is like remote monitoring interfaces. So you can check, so you can manually check on your printer from further away,
Hmm.
basically, but it doesn't have any of this like production management automation.
That's a nice transition. Do you want to talk about what if people want to manage their farm from some other location?
Okay, it's a SIGU
It's a
again.
SIGU. It's our new favorite word.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another big part of Pro. I'm just gonna switch back to the other video. It's going to be, you could set up your printer in a place like this, uh, a random basement somewhere,
Mhm.
and be able to access it from anywhere. So
Because maybe you don't want to have a printer, noisy printer, all right next to you the whole time. You
yeah,
know, maybe that's all you've got. It's a basement.
yeah, and right now, like before I was using Quinly, I had a complicated setup of like VPNs and TeamViewer to be able to manage my printer at home from, wherever I was.
Hmm.
And luckily I had the technical knowledge to do that and I was in high school so I had the time to set that up. But the fact that we're still there years later is not really a good thing. And there are remote access solutions uh, available for current farm software, but the setup for it is very involved. So something that we're looking at uh, that we're implementing into Pro is remote access. So anywhere you have an internet connection, you'll be able to sign in and view your farm and manage your farm remotely. Again, the farm is going to be completely automated, so you can trust things to work well. You don't have to constantly like monitor.
And you'll still get like video feeds if they're connected, right?
Yeah, yeah, you'd still get video feeds if you need to check on things. Um, but the big thing is like we've been working on kind of hassle-free remote setup. So you won't have um, right now a lot of times actually I think Raised Cloud you don't have to do this. Like they have a pretty good system, but you don't have with other stuff you have to do like port forwarding and potentially expose and this becomes very risky with certain softwares. You have to expose your pi to the internet, which
Hmm.
can be dangerous if you don't do it correctly and if you don't know how to do it properly. um,
I've heard cases of people actually finding other people's pies and sending files saying, I found your pie. And
yeah,
their printer printed something that said, I found your pie. It's like pretty
that's
scary.
scary. That's scary,
Yeah.
especially if it's malicious. And there are a lot of bots out there that just scan open ports on the internet for Raspberry Pis, and a lot of people don't change the default login, so they just log into it.
Mm.
And so what we're doing with Quinly Pro is a very security focused approach to this, where you know the Pi still needs internet access, but it doesn't require any specific ports to be forwarded on your router. Um, all the communication is encrypted. Um, like if you're working in a corporate setting or at a university, you'll know how difficult it is to manage. things remotely because you have IT that has set up certain firewalls to protect the company network or the school network, and they can be really hard to work with, or you might even have to get IT involved in some cases. The solution that we're looking at is kind of like, if you know how VPNs work, it's similar to that, but it provides a secure way that won't make IT unhappy with you and will give your computer a direct connection to the printer. So there's no, there's it just goes straight from your computer to your printer through the internet, like a direct encrypted tunnel. This is starting to get complicated, but if anyone's in IT, like, you'll be happy to know that we're not just doing something that could be vulnerable. There's a whole system of token exchange and basically a lot of security features that will make the IT department at your school or your company very happy, and will also mean that you can you get a pretty hassle-free setup because it doesn't require interfering with your network in order to work.
It's like, this stuff is important. It's kind of hard to get through.
It's hard to get
but like
through.
this
Yeah.
stuff, it's important for a lot of people. But it's one of those things you don't want to think about it too much. But then, like, when something goes wrong, it goes really wrong.
Yeah, it can
So we
go
don't. We
really
just want to
wrong.
make sure that we're covering
Yeah.
all the bases so that people don't get like random prints sent from other people
That
appearing
is,
on their Quinlys.
yeah, that would be really dangerous. But yeah, so all that to say is that it's basically like completely hassle-free remote access setup where the Pi just needs to have internet access and your computer needs to have internet access. There's a whole bunch of complex security stuff happening in the background that you don't have to worry about, don't have to touch, and you'll be able to access your printers from anywhere through a secure account.
So what if you have a printer in one place and you have another printer at home and you have a printer in your friend's house and you have a printer at work? Can you connect to all of them? Good question from Bao.
That's a good question. Yeah. That's actually the reason that we've started developing this. Certain Quinly users, like actually Robert, who's in chat, have printers in multiple locations that they need to still be able to access from a single place. And so that's what we've been working on. So every printer will basically be tied to your account, and no matter where they're connected, you'll be able to see them. And maybe it'd be a good thing to start showing some of the interface concepts we have that'll show, like, okay, here's how it'll actually look
Yeah,
when you have many printers connected.
we have a little demonstration.
Yeah,
Nothing fancy. Can I just do this?
yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Bao's saying, any chance for a phone app? I think that'd be a good idea. We're going to start with just a web app because that lets us go into either.
So like optimizing the current interface for mobile.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, currently it was designed with like tablets in mind, but yeah, using it on a phone is a bit trickier.
and again, the idea of tablets came from feedback we've gotten from current users. So, okay, so here, how do I go through? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here's like a concept that we put together. There, in order to let you manage your farm most effectively, there is going to be a few different views that you can choose what works best for you. But the idea is basically simple overview screen where you can get a good idea of what's going on at any time. And now this has some other features in there that I think we'll probably skip over for now because it's not, they're further down the road. But things like being able to see all your printers and all the names you've given them, and also being able to tag each printer. So in this mock-up, the printers are tagged with different locations. And so you could sort by location. So if you have two farms in different locations, you can give all of the printers uh, in one location a certain tag and all of the printers in another location a certain tag. And so that if you want to be managing production on one farm, you can just select that tag and work with only those printers.
Or what if you have multiple kinds of printers? You have like a CR10 and a Prusa. You can set tags for those and only be able to see your CR10s or
You don't have to set tags for those. They'll just be sorted by type automatically.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can do custom tags, or you can just sort by things that are already there, like material or type, even maybe color. I don't know. That's just something we were messing around with.
Or status is nice, so you can sort by all your ones that need attention, so you can go to those right away.
Yeah. So this is like a list view where if you just really quickly need to get to a printer, you can filter it. Now, the other view is a little bit nicer. Actually, I like this one more, but there's more information about each printer, but there's fewer printers on the screen at once. And this one, gives you a bit more information about what is currently printing on what printer. Again, you can sort at the top, and it's basically at a glance, you can tell what your whole farm is doing, or you can sort by certain printers and tell what certain printers in a farm are doing.
Get some more questions in chat, or I guess comments.
Yeah. It's nice for helping my customers use it as a remote diagnosis system, like TeamViewer, but for printers. Yeah, exactly. Like being able to see what remote deployments are doing all in one space, and being able to quickly sort through them is going to be very important. Do we have any other views? No.
Okay. No, there's those two.
I'll show the other one that I'm working on. There's a third view that's like very concept stage that I think will be really cool for people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll show that. It's okay. So these types of interfaces you will have probably seen before. Like I think Mainsail has something similar to this, and Octofarm has something similar to this, where just a grid of printers. But there's a Prusa farm that we work with, and one of his big problems is he's not the only person that's running the print farm.
Mm-hmm.
He has employees working on different shifts, and because prints take a long time, someone might start a set of prints at the end of their shift, and they might not be completed until the next person's shift. And that next person is going to need to find where those parts are in the farm. And so with grid views like this, or a list view, it doesn't really tell you physically where a machine is in your print farm. So one of the ideas that we're thinking about, and I'd be really curious to hear everyone's feedback, is like a 3D view of your farm. And so the idea is that you can build up roughly where your printers are in physical space.
It's cool. This is the first time hearing this.
Wait, really? I thought I showed. Oh,
I
you
didn't
weren't
see
on the
this
call.
before.
Okay.
I've heard little bits and pieces
You
of like
weren't-
a 2D version, but definitely not a 3D version.
Yeah. Well, I took the
This is
idea of
sick.
the
Okay.
2D version.
You get my real life reactions to this.
Yeah. So the idea is like you'd lay it out kind of how your real print farm is, and then
And would these like change color based on their
Yeah.
status? Oh,
yeah,
oh, that's good.
yeah.
Nice.
So like you could have, this could be one facility, and then you could have different layouts for different facilities.
Right.
And so like on the side you would have a job list, and so you're like, okay, where did this job actually get printed? Because I need to pick up these parts, and you would like select the job, and it would highlight the printers that job was printed on, so you know
Right.
where to go.
So they would like glow or something? if
Yeah,
they
they
were...
get like outlined or something. Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, because with our print farm, isn't it like annoying having to find out where? I mean, we have, okay, this is actually a good example. In our farm, we have whiteboards that correlate like the name of the printer to where it is on a print farm. Like we
Hmm.
have drawings everywhere. Like here's the IP address, here's the name. It corresponds to printer in row one, column one.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of work to manage and set up, and we're not really moving our farm around, but if we were adding more printers, that would be really annoying to have to keep updating because it's like manually drawn on a whiteboard. And
Yeah, but we have just enough printers so I know where each one is
yeah,
because they've all got different names and numbers, but we have if you have like 50 or 60 printers in a farm, there's no way you're going to just know where everything is at
there's
once,
no
and
chance.
you'd rather just offload that to a computer and not have to think about it.
Yeah, and like
Happy Steve. Sorry, I just see Kevin in chat. Happy Steven. I'll take a drink. I'll take a drink of water for you for that. You seem to like
Yeah.
it when I do that.
But yeah, the idea is you can like click on a job and it will tell you exactly where it is. And actually, Henry has a good idea. Could you use the 3D visuals as an interface that leads you directly to the webcam? Yes. So the idea is you can click on each one of these printers and it would then open up the page for that printer. So it'd open up a page like this, for example, where you would actually get details about the printer. You would see the live feed if there was a camera connected, and you can go in and set all the settings. And then you can go back out, where did I print this job? Click on it, it'll highlight the machines, and you click on them, and then it goes in, and you can manage the printers individually.
Oh, I have an idea. What if you use the 3D stuff that we just have been working on? You get your phone and scan your whole farm so you can actually walk around in it.
That'd be crazy.
That's a thing that's possible. It'd be really hard to know what printers
Yeah, you'd
but
have to like drop. It'd be really
Yeah.
complicated.
but it would be cool to be able to walk around your farm.
Like photorealistic.
Photorealistic farm.
Yeah.
Because you could say, oh, we have a virtual tour of our print farm, check it out. And you could just have that.
Yeah, you can do that. There is a way, but I
Yeah.
just haven't tried it yet, and I don't know if I want to spend 10 hours making it work. But yeah, here. I was actually
Yeah, cloning the farm so you can make it in VR.
yeah, this is like we have it in our software backlog, a joke feature request that's like support VR
Yeah.
for VR print farms. So it's funny that you've come up with the same idea because yeah, literally we have a joke feature request of doing VR print farms or AR print farm, AR Quinly interface. Um, but yeah, so this is like, I guess more seriously, this is like an alternative to these grids. So if you are looking for parts or adding more machines, you can put them in physical space so it becomes easy to find prints after. Like I have to show this to Pat because that's a big problem in his farm is like, okay, where did my parts actually go?
Mm.
Actually, speaking of one of the issues that he brought up managing his farm, so he currently manages it through Octoprint and he's onboarding onto Quinly right now. And one of the problems that he has with Octoprint is that it doesn't actually, if you take a printer offline and plug it back in, it won't remember what printer it was. It'll just show up as a new machine.
Yeah.
And
So your printer number 24, Johnny, or whatever, will just show up as blank printer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
yeah. And what he does right now to find it is he sends homing commands to all the printers until he gets to the right one,
Yeah.
which
It's
is
not fun.
not fun.
I've done that before, actually.
Yeah.
But you don't want to have to do that for
No, so
multiple printers.
that's another, it's like a very specific issue, but it is actually an issue a lot of people run into. Like I think there's a GitHub thing open on Octoprint for this, and like a lot of people are like, is there any way to store the printer state and what printer it was, so I don't have to keep resetting it when it reconnects.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so that's something that we've solved as well with Pro. So you can take your printer offline for maintenance, and when it's back and ready to be printing, everything is going to be saved. It will be recognized as the same printer, um, and it can just get back right back into production automatically. So it would almost be a matter of you do your maintenance or fixing it, plug it back in, and it will just start printing right away and start picking up jobs for you.
So Pro uniquely identifies every printer and tracks it, even
Yeah.
when it's offline, and it still remembers
Yeah,
whatever identifier.
it'll know that it's missing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes back, it'll know this is the printer that went offline.
Right. So will there still be slots for the printers that you previously plugged in? Like will you be able to see if a printer is just disconnected?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and
So
you
you're
can
not
like
like losing printers and gaining printers when they disconnect and reconnect. You're just saying, okay, this one's offline, this one's online, but they still exist. They don't have to be
yeah,
reconfigured every time.
yeah, and like that's again is a big, I guess, annoying part of current software is it's not made to manage farms as a single thing
Hmm.
because with manual printing you have to manage printers individually, and so the software is built around managing printers individually. Whereas with Quinly, because the printers are automated, you don't have to manage them individually. And Quinly Pro software, we are building it with the idea that you're now managing a farm as a single thing, and you should rarely have to manage printers individually.
Hmm.
If everything's going good, um, under normal circumstances, you won't have to manage printers individually. Um,
So what if you have specific settings for a particular printer?
that's a
Can you
good
specify
question.
like temperature?
Yeah. So with Pro, one of the things a lot of um, with a lot of farms have talked about is they have to set um, excuse me,
Bless you.
they have to set offsets, like temperature offsets for different machines, because they might have different hot ends or different thermistors. Um, and so what you do right now is when slicing, uh, like let's say I have an all metal hot end on one printer
Hmm.
and just a regular like PTFE aligned hot end on another one.
Or like a steel nozzle or something.
There's something, yeah, maybe a weird nozzle, like this, yeah, some nozzle that requires me to print at a different temperature. Like, how would you, if you were doing production and you had like a farm with mixed hot end types, how would you set up production for that farm, assuming manual?
So I would probably do like a file name thing where I have Benchy G code, or like it would be Benchy brass nozzle G code,
Hmm.
whatever, and then Benchy steel nozzle G code, and it'd be actually like Benchy PLA 0.4 brass, Benchy PLA 0.4 steel, and then if I had to change it to PET G, for example, I would make a whole new G code, Benchy PET G 0.4 steel. And the only thing I would change to print with PET-G is the bed and nozzle temperature. So if I
Right.
could just have a single G code called Benchy, and then say, okay, so for this printer it's using PET-G, so boost temperature by 20, boost bed temperature by 10. But just use the same G code because it's all the same. That would be much easier. You just have one file, and then you could add offsets to it depending on what material or what nozzle or what hot end you're using.
Yeah, so that's how we would be doing it. So right now, the common practice is to, when slicing, be constantly thinking about what printers you might be sending this file to and slicing versions for every type of printer. Now, let's say you made, a change to the benching model. You would have to reslice not just the one file, but you'd have to reslice files for each printer or variation in your farm. So again, that like idea that version control becomes a huge hassle. Um, what we're doing with Quinly Pro and remembering what printers are what is being able to set offsets like that in in for each printer, so that when it receives a G-code file, those settings get applied to that file in Quinly, so that you can have only one G-code file. And now, of course, this won't work for everything. Like some printers can print much faster than others, and so you can't really, you might have to slice completely differently, or if you're doing like Bowden versus direct drive, that that won't work. You'll still have to slice differently.
Yeah.
But for things like different colors of PLA, where the only change is temperature and some basic settings, or just different nozzles on the same type of printer, it's like those little kind of annoying things that you have to keep in mind and think about in order to get consistent production. That will also all be managed for you, because you will just set it once for the whatever printers you have connected, and the settings will automatically be applied when a file gets sent to that printer. So you can do what you were saying, where you just have one Benchy G code, and it might get sent to 3 different printers, and it will have the settings applied for those particular printers when it gets sent to it.
It's actually got me thinking of different offsets you could have. Because actually, retraction, you could actually have Bowden and direct drive use the same G code if you do something called firmware retraction.
The G6 or something?
I don't know what G code it is, but rather you just send a G code to the printer and it knows to retract by the amount that it retracts. And then Maker's Muse did a good video on this, but you can say that the printers handle the retraction rather than the G code.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could have a central G code that has retraction for any printer, and then you can do temperature offsets for any material or nozzle, and then maybe even like an X or Y offset on the model itself.
Yeah.
For if it's like, if you want it to be centered on a bigger printer, you can say, okay, add 20 and X to make sure it's in the center of our CR10, for example. Mm-hmm. So there's quite a few different, really, I guess, like simple things that you could do.
Yeah.
Some of the more complex things you can't do.
But. Yeah, and it's like it's those simple things. Like it's, and I know like every
simple
that's what I'm about to say. Like every farm operator is guilty of this, including myself, where it's like, oh yeah, that's so easy. But then you have to remember, sure, it's easy, but you have to do it for like every file variation for every printer you have, and you have to think about it every single time you do slicing. And so then that's when it becomes, it's still easy, but it becomes a huge waste of time. Like, why are you wasting time doing this really easy stuff when you can have software that manages it for you? Yeah. And really,
that's should, like all of 3DQ. Why do all this basic stuff when you can just let software do it?
Yeah, because, you know, as a print farm operator, like you have skills that are much better used on higher value things. Your time is more valuable spent designing products and adding more machines to your farm than it is scraping beds or making a million file variations that will work across different colors of material. This type of thing will also let you more easily experiment with new brands of like PLA filament or new colors of PLA filament, because it becomes very easy to do that. Because you could also, this will be later, but you can have offsets per printer, but you can also have offsets for material types.
Yeah, that would be really neat.
And yeah, so that...
Like actually about 2 days ago, I sliced 12 different parts again, because I sliced them at 210 degrees, but it was silk PLA. So I wanted to actually slice them for 230 degrees. And I have to run them all through Cura one time just to change the number from 210 to 230. Nothing else changed.
So annoying.
And it was, you know, annoying. Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want to have to do that when I could rather just click a button in the UI that says plus 20 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You could have like, because you would know in Pro, you would be sending it as a silk PLA job.
Yeah.
You could have an offset for silk PLA that's plus 20 degrees. And then anytime you send that G code as a silk PLA print, it's done. And Yeah, we should probably talk about the other settings because I hadn't even think about X, Y offsets, but
Mm.
that's an easy one to do. And um, since we already do G-code file processing, we could even do complicated things like speeds, maybe.
Yeah, we could do speed. There's a G code for just percentage speed. If
Yeah.
there's a machine that can handle better or faster speeds or accelerations, or even maybe different, if you're using different filament diameters, I hope you're not, but if you
I'm
are,
gonna be
maybe you could
scared.
change.
No.
Actually, your printer would know because it's E-steps. That's all it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. That would work.
But yeah, so the point being that
Actually, no, we would have to restart.
Quinly Pro will handle a lot of these millions and millions of small tasks and stumbling blocks. It will handle that for you so that you don't have to think about running your print farm. Um, and you can just focus on like, here's, we want to get as close as possible to just having one G code that then gets translated for different machines, almost like a
Yeah,
post slicing step. But this is kind of the first step to that. Like, what is that low hanging fruit that's just a waste of time for most operators?
I want to see how Steph's comment shows up in this thing.
Yeah,
But I get it. It's like, you know, putting a G code file on an SD card. That's easy. Walking to the printer. Easy, right? Cleaning the bed of the previous print. Easy, right? Apply isopropyl alcohol to clean it up. Easy. Glue it. Easy. Just put some glue stick on. It's fine. Uh, hit the button, start the next print. It's easy. What else do you have to do? You have to know when to come back to the printer. Whatever, just come back in 8 hours. It's easy. You'll be around. Maybe you have to wake up. Maybe you have to set an alarm. That's not so easy, I guess. But
yeah, that's not
all
easy.
these little things, and then you have to slice a new part with a new material. That's not too hard. It just takes a few minutes. All said and done, you've spent your whole day running around to different printers, slicing different
Yeah,
files, just stressing about if your prints are finishing and if they're failing or if the first layer is stuck down. And there's actually way too much for a single person to think about running a print farm the traditional way. So all of those little micro tasks, we're trying to get rid of all of them with Quinly Pro. So you just have to upload, one G code file, send it to all your printers, and there's your week of printing done in like 2 seconds.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's insane how much time all those like easy things add up to. It's hours of time, and like if you, yeah, it's hours of time and hundreds of dollars in your time or other people's time, and even more in just printer downtime because the time you're spending running these micro tasks is time that you're not spending that your printers aren't going. So it
I like
is,
that word micro tasks.
yeah,
We need to use that more.
1,000 micro tasks.
Yeah.
It's actually
That's what 3D
insane.
printing is. It's a bunch of micro tasks.
I think that's why when you use Quinly even now, it feels so simple
Mm-hmm.
because it's handling all of these, like, not everything we discussed today, that's in the next update, but Quinly is handling all of these tiny tasks for you. And so it is kind of a weird feeling in that you just hit add to queue and you're kind of done. And
Yeah.
and not only are you done for that one print, you're actually done for like days worth of printing. And it is kind of a weird feeling that I think a lot of people don't realize until it moves on to the second print in the queue because they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have to do anything for this. And then the next morning when you walk in and there's just a whole bunch of parts, it's the same thing where it's like, oh, I didn't actually have to do any extra work to get all of these parts. I
Yeah,
think,
actually, the first time that because when I joined 3DQ, the first time that I saw a pile of prints on the ground after a night of printing, like, I knew that I was working for an automation company, but like, damn, like,
yeah, it's crazy. And
it's
it's so
like,
simple looking.
yeah, it's like, I guess it's like when you walk to school every day, for example, you don't mind walking to school every day because that's what you have to do. But one day I started biking to school, and I started like my mind was blown. I was like, why was I spending all this time walking to
Yeah,
school when I could have just gotten a bike?
right.
And that's kind of like the same aha moment that I had when Quinly dumped a whole bunch of parts on the ground overnight, and I realized like, wait, this is the life. This is what we need to be doing everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of very freeing, but in a way like that you wouldn't realize it right away.
Yeah.
And
And it's
some
hard to like look at it from an outside
yeah.
perspective because you're like, it doesn't take that much time to clean a bed. Like seriously.
Yeah, once.
Yeah.
But do it 100 times and like wake up in the middle of the night to do it. Then it becomes, you know, like if you told somebody to scrape 1,000 parts in a row, then they'd be like, okay, that takes me hours. But
Mhm.
when that's spread over the course of a few months, you don't really realize it because it's like uh, boiling the frog or whatever, right? Like
It's
it's
a slow,
yeah,
slow, painful thing.
yeah, it's a super slow, painful death.
You don't realize that it sucks so much until, you look back on your time that you've been doing it wrong the whole time, and now you get a taste of Quinly, for example, and you're like, wow, that was a
Yeah,
lot of wasted time.
yeah. Death by 1,000 microtests,
Yeah.
literally. But I was saying, does the vapor bed clean itself? Can we make that happen? Yeah, if you don't really have to clean it very often, as long as you're not
Last time I cleaned a vapor
yeah, I
bed
don't think I've cleaned
was like a month ago. And we have a whole print farm.
yeah. You don't
And
really have to clean it unless
if you're using them every day, you actually don't need to clean them because when you print, all the dust gets kind of like taken away by the print.
yeah.
So the only times I've had to clean a vapor bed are like when I was cooking next to my printer and the oil splattered onto it. Or don't do that, by the way. Or I guess if you keep your printer idle for like a week or something and it gets dusty, then you need to wipe it off with a cloth or something. It's
You know what?
really,
I just do a big print and then I print something smaller.
oh yeah, that,
At,
that also
at
works. You
my
don't need to dust it.
in my basement, that's what I do. I'll do like a one layer and then
Oh yeah,
peel it off and then just keep printing.
that works.
Yeah, it's like this super lazy way.
So you don't even need to go downstairs to clean the bed. You just need to
No,
hit your one layer print.
yeah, I peel the one layer because the dust makes it too sticky, but
Mm.
after that one, it's good. Um, I wonder if Robert is still on the stream because I have something to show him based on a question. I guess we should just show it. Maybe he's listening. Uh, this is kind of unrelated to Pro.
Oh yeah, new development in
Yeah,
Quinly vapor technologies.
but we're working on a matte version of the Surface. It's kind of hard to see, but we'll be posting some videos on our Discord and our social media.
So you can get the video up.
Oh yeah, do you want to put the video up?
I'll find it.
But yeah, a lot of people have been asking for an alternative to the glossy Surface. So this is like a satin soft finish, and it works pretty well.
Satin vapor.
Satin vapor. I was calling it micro satin because it's like
It's not
microns.
glossy, but it's not matte, I guess.
It's like yeah, and actually, if you feel it, it feels soft.
Yeah,
Kind of
I haven't actually like properly felt this yet. Here, maybe you want to set up the video.
yeah. Set up the video.
That's nice. I guess the camera doesn't really capture it too well.
Yeah,
But it's not, it's still a little bit glossy, but it's not super glossy.
the parts come out pretty matte. Like
Actually,
you'll
there's
see in
this
the
one
video.
which is half of it. So you can actually see the difference here.
Yeah, the bottom half is the matte.
Yeah. So if your parts are too glossy, this is the solution for you.
Here's a good example. So this is the bottom side. You can actually see the top side of this print was more glossy than the bottom.
Yeah, that's cool because you want it to be even in the sheet.
Hmm.
Because that's one thing that when I started printing way back, I printed on glass, and it was really cool to see like a super glossy bottom. But in reality, if you're trying to make a thing that looks good, you actually want all sides to look about the same instead of just one really glossy side. Or in the case of like the textured surfaces, sometimes it's okay to have one side that's really rough and textured, but other times you just want all the sides to be the same sheet. So Mateo's getting another
Yeah, I've got another.
demo.
I have a side by side view. Yeah, this is very recent development, like literally a day ago. But here, the one on the right is on a regular vapor, and the one on the left is on the satin finish. And you can see the bottom and the top are pretty uniform.
That's a nice first layer, even regardless of
Thank
the
you, thank
our first layer connoisseurs over
you.
here.
You don't want to see how I attached it. Literally, like
Clips,
no, not
glue
as bad
tack.
as clip. I took a strip of our 3M, just like a small strip, and put it at the
Oh,
top and the bottom.
oh
So it's like
no!
it's floating.
It's a floating air gap heating zone
Yeah,
for
not super
maximum
good.
heat and efficiency.
Could this help with the release of flex materials? That's a good question.
Yeah, maybe it
I
does,
do not know.
or maybe it does the opposite. We
The
should try it.
intention was purely aesthetic because it was actually a request by somebody who needed um, matte finish. They needed even finish on both sides, so uh, it'd be worth testing. Maybe I send you one. Henry can beta
Steph.
test it. Good question.
Do the
Actually,
one above
which one?
the even Steven Matt's Matt.
Oh wait, hold on.
We're covering up the good part.
Yeah, we're covering up the joke. If it's really consistent and balanced, we can call it even Steven and Matt. We haven't printed the labels for it yet, so maybe we can. Um, there was actually something. Speaking of Henry's suggestion, there was that story we wanted to talk about, um, of Henry's experience printing manual versus automated.
Yeah. So Quinly for prototyping specifically.
Yeah. So this is also a bit of a kind of a new look because we are always talking about pro here, or sorry, production. We're always talking about production, but um, we do have a lot of people who are using Quinly for prototyping, and we had that story back in the fall with Jeremy Owens where he had to print 1,000 prototype parts,
Yeah.
and that you could consider that like a really big prototype production run, like you're getting into production numbers there.
Hmm.
Um, but there's this case with Henry where he was just doing a couple prototypes and still found that the automation made a huge difference. So I guess we can't say too much about the job that he's doing, but
We could just say that like the number of prints he had to do
yeah,
and the time that it took him to do them.
sure. So the Henry was prototyping these 40-minute parts, and he has a printer with Quinly and a printer without Quinly on it. And so he was just using both printers at the same time because that seemed to be most efficient. Obviously, if you have two printers, you should be using both of them.
Yeah.
Um, and so with the manual printers, the print took 40 minutes each. He's getting about five uh, per day
On the manual printer or
on the manual printer.
yeah.
He did five during the day and then set a batch of five to go overnight. And so, in that 24-hour period, he got 10 parts on the manual machine.
Hmm.
What was interesting was these parts, they required a bit of iteration because they were prototypes. Specifically, it was like fit testing.
So you just have to try like 1 millimeter, 1.2 millimeters,
Yeah,
1.4 millimeters, and then just these very small different changes.
yeah, just a whole bunch of different size tolerance changes.
Oh, there we go. It's adapter rings for construction equipment.
Okay, we can say what it is. Cool. Okay. So what he realized with Quinly was that instead of printing one, test fitting it, and then moving on to the next, one at a time, he could generate all the size ranges he wanted to in advance, and then just queue up the different prototypes. And so that at the end of the day, he would just have all of these things that he could test automatically printed for him. Um, so yeah, not only that, but um, he yeah, he put the 5 iterations of the prototype in the queue, analyzed the results once he did those iterations, and then loaded the final design into the queue at the end of the day. And on the automated machine, so including prototype and initial production batch, he's able to do 26 parts in 24 hours.
That's
Whereas
good.
with the unautomated machine, it was the 5 iterations, one after the other, and then a batch of 5 overnight, resulting, it's so with 10 versus 26. So it's basically a 2.5 times increase in productivity, even though he's just doing um, prototypes and like
Yeah.
not doing full scale production yet.
It's a good use case for it
Yeah,
because if you know that you need to at least try out a few different fit sizes, or if you know you're gonna have to do a few iterations, you can just create, a few different files with different, slightly different dimensions, send them all into a queue, and then come back to them, just try them all out and find the one that works best,
yeah,
rather than the process of like, okay, print one, try it, okay, doesn't work, make a change that you think is gonna make it work. You print it again. Okay, it doesn't work, but you were closer, and then you do a third one and then a fourth one, and by that time you probably got it. But you spent a lot of time doing that iteration process.
and the problem with doing it that way too is your production on your printer is not continuous because you're printing one, you have to go reset it, do a redesign, start the next print, and so
Mm-hmm.
there's this gap between the 5 prototypes that wasn't present on the automated machine. Um, so what he found was that during the daytime, uh, he actually had 4 hours of downtime due to this, due to either getting to the machine late after it had printed one prototype, having to load the next prototype into onto the manual machine, um, and repeating that 5 times. So ended up losing 4 hours. Ended up also losing time if he came back to it before it had finished and had to wait for the print to finish to test it. So it was very inefficient. Whereas with the Quinly system, he was just able to queue up the 5 iterations right away. And so there were no gaps between prototype iterations because
Yeah.
the other nice thing is because they're all queued, you can go while you're waiting for them to print, you can just do other stuff. Um, and yeah, so he lost 4 hours during the day, and then the batch that he printed overnight manually was
You could finish halfway through the night. Right?
yeah, it finished halfway through the night. So the printer was sitting there idle for about 10 hours. So there was 14 hours of productivity lost on a manual machine. And you really wouldn't think that you would lose that much time either because like the objective is pretty clear. Print 5 iterations and then print a batch of 5 before you
Mm-hmm.
go to bed. But the fact that that batch, finishes early before you're awake or before you can get to the printer next, you lose all the time after that. And because you're prototyping and doing iterations, if you're checking between each print, then you're losing time between those prints as well. So manual, we lost 14 hours of productivity compared to uh, the Quinly printer, and manual was 10 prototypes, uh, whereas with Quinly it was 26. And the other difference is with Quinly he's printing them one at a time, so there was no risk of losing a batch of parts
Yeah.
because if you just lose one part, that's not as big a deal as losing a batch of 5 parts overnight. So not only was it lower risk, but it was far more productive. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just another way that you can use Quinly. If you're doing a lot of design work, you can use it to improve your prototyping efficiency without having to, yeah, constantly babysit your printer and having to come back to it all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Was there any more things you wanted to talk about?
We have a lot more points, but
Could almost be another stream's worth of
I
content.
think it's another stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just quickly, we can talk about, hmm, I'm not sure. This is almost like a full stream.
Yeah. There's a lot more to do. Yeah, we should have broken this up into two streams because
Yeah,
we
I
have
think,
we have like literally another hour and a half of stuff here.
yeah, we've basically gone through about half of what's anticipated for Pro.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe we should do a part two.
I, yeah, I think we might have to.
We could do maybe another one closer to the time where we can maybe show some examples.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe to recap, um, couple exciting things coming are the multi-printer hub. So, as a bit of a response to the chip shortage, being able to run more printers from individual Pis or wireless hubs also keeps costs down quite a lot because every printer you add, divide the cost of the Pi. And if it costs $20 for hardware to control your printer, I think a lot of people would be happy about that.
Yeah.
Versus the current price of like $200. Um, so that is open for beta. React to the message in our Discord, and tomorrow you'll be added and invited to the kickoff call, where we'll do a bit of brainstorming and tell you what to expect for the beta testing, give you access to the software and all of that stuff. And then with Quinly Pro, we're talking about doing managing all those micro tasks that come with running many machines at once. When you're running manual, you're basically managing a lot of machines, whereas when you're running a farm with Quinly Pro, you're managing a farm as a single unit, and Quinly is managing the machines for you. See, there's no it takes a lot of that hassle and headache away. And as with everything Quinly, it will also be really easy to set up. It will be plug and play. You can mix different machines together, and it will handle all of those little decisions that come with managing different machines for you. Um,
And you have that centralized file storage, centralized queuing, uh, and the different views. So the grid view, the list view, and the 3D view, which was really cool to see.
yeah, so
This is the list view.
get a sense of what's going on at a glance, filter for what you're looking for at the top. You can have multiple locations deployed. Uh, and again, don't have to think very much about it. You just plug everything in. Yeah, there's a bit of a different view if you want a little bit more information about each printer before diving into the interface you guys are all familiar with, like this. This will still be present for every single printer. And then, yeah, we were talking about, potentially doing a 3D farm view where to help locate where things are printed, you could select a job and it will highlight what machines need attention, or if something goes wrong or filament needs to be replaced, it won't just give you like a printer name. It'll actually show you where that printer is in your farm that needs filament to be replaced. So stuff like that. I think this is really exciting. I think this will be a lot of fun to see how people set up their farms.
Maybe people would use it to plan their farms too. Do like a little,
Ooh, a little bit of planning.
people just like try out different orientations and layouts and
Yeah.
stacks and stuff.
That'd be cool.
Just to give just a general idea anyway. Don't need dimensions and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and so all of this again is to make it easier to run your print farm, to get more machines, and to actually focus on the products that you're making, not just uh, micromanaging dozens and dozens of printers, because we all know how tiresome that can become.
Yeah, death by a thousand micro tasks.
Yeah,
I like that.
painful, slow death.
So we're trying to save you from that.
Yeah. Anything else we should say? Wait, there's a lot more to this, like farm analytics, and we talked about also having G code that automatically adapts to whatever printer it's sent to, so that
Quinly Vision integration.
yeah, we didn't even talk about that
A
today.
lot to get through.
There's a lot to get to. So I think we'll probably save it for a second stream, uh, where we'll talk about, yeah, analytics, what insights you can get from your printers, and stats that we're planning on releasing or having built into the software. Um, yeah, and we'll also talk about Quinly Vision integration because we did not even talk about that at all today. Can you add floors so I can map out a fleet of printers upstairs? Can you highlight that comment, Steven?
Oh yeah. Floors.
I think the way we would do it is, sorry, there would be like a separate layout for different locations. So you could have like,
I just tried doing a floating pixel. It's possible.
it's possible. Yeah, so I would think like this could be like floor 1 and then you click to go over to floor 2.
Yeah, just a new
potentially.
view, and it would just be a fresh
Yeah,
slate. That works.
I think that's how it would work because that would make sense for different locations as well. I don't know, unless you want to do it like this.
That could work, but it'd get messy after
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah, I guess you can make them float high in the air or in the garage. Kevin says this is a very intense stream, lots of info.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why there hasn't been Quinly updates since I think the last big one we released was in February or January.
So
So
it's like a 1.1.6.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's why there's lots of stuff coming, and a lot of these features are the beta is open for multi-hub, but a lot of these features are going to be rolled out kind of over the course of the summer. And yeah, we need to talk about uh, Quinly Vision as well, because that kind of goes alongside this. But yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of exciting stuff.
Yeah. So we'll cover the next half of the stream another week. It's been nice talking to you guys in chat. And if you guys have more questions or you want to, continue the conversation, just go in Discord. We've got their Discord link in the description. If you're not subscribed to the channel, why not subscribe? Hit the like button. Just gotta say that stuff, just because we got to. And
It's
Yeah.
here.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Join us on Discord though. We're always there. We're always chatting. We had a lot of new people on our Discord now too, so
Yeah.
it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
A lot of people from Reddit, like a couple weeks ago now.
Oh, keep an eye out for the new Reddit post too.
New Reddit post dropping.
New
Coming.
Reddit post dropping. Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about it this stream, but it will be showing how you can do the 3D stuff using only PyCam. So, yeah, look forward to that. Yeah, that was a big stream. That was a lot of info.
Yeah. Well, I guess Bao's got a question.
Sure.
He has printers in Vietnam, and I guess wherever he is normally. Can they both get connected to Pro?
Yeah.
What about Antarctica?
If you have an internet connection,
International Space Station printers can also work. Do they get internet?
if they have internet, yeah, if they have internet.
So you could set up a remote 3D printing base on Mars. It just needs internet.
Yeah,
I don't think they get
we need
internet.
to ask the ESA to ship our printers out there.
That could be cool though. Remote 3D printing station.
That's the whole point
Unmanned.
of this.
Yeah.
You want to send astronauts up to run the machines? That'd
Like,
be like
yeah.
the worst job ever.
Yeah, we need some three beds scraped and 2 adhesives applied up
Yeah,
up
literally.
on Mars.
Yeah,
Who's
you
volunteering to go?
you get sent in your capsule full of scrapers and glue sticks. It'd be so sad, and you'd be the only one on the planet too.
Oh,
Yeah, no, you don't want.
actually, zero gravity Quinly would be awesome because the parts wouldn't fall; they would just float.
You would just send
They'd
them.
just be bouncing around the room while they're printing.
That'd be really tricky.
We would
Maybe
need some sort of like
shoot them out of an
collection.
airlock or something.
Yeah, it would have to be like a one-way flap system where parts can
You
go
know
in,
what?
but they can't go out.
You could use the you could use a fan to blow it away.
That would work.
Yeah. Unless it was in vacuum. I don't know. That would be
Yeah, I guess maybe you don't need oxygen if there's no one there. Maybe it'll just be a vacuum. I wonder if 3D printers would work in a vacuum because the heat wouldn't get convected anywhere. So
that might be
it'd just be really energy efficient.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is what you want with a printer in space where you have solar power. See, this is what you get when you stay to the end of our stream.
Yeah, this is getting into dangerous territory. Okay, we got to call NASA after this.
Yeah, NASA.
Talk to Musk.
What would it be?
Yeah, at him on Twitter.
Space Q.
Space Q.
You can get the first part of your name still. We just need the Q, please.
Yeah, Space Q. Maybe. Yeah, maybe we need to add him.
That could be it. That could be like the self-replicating colony on Mars that doesn't need humans to do it.
I think he
3D
wants to
Mars?
send humans though.
He won't need to send as many
Yeah.
because we don't need to send print operators up.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll just be one guy that
Just him and
runs all the Quinlys.
his friends, yeah. All right. Let's end it before we go any further.
Yeah, these ideas are too good to share now. So
We'll see you all in the next stream, Wednesday at 4:30 PST. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, continue the discussion on Discord, and we'll cover the rest of these features in a coming stream. There's still a lot left. This is part 1.
yes.
No.
Oh, and there's Polymaker.
No.
Well, we're just about to end the stream, Polymaker, but good to see you there.
I'll show you what you missed. Pro dashboard.
Control all your printers from a central queue, central view. Oh yeah, I really wanted to talk about the Anchor printer too.
Next stream.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that next stream because
Yeah.
there was so much to talk about on that too, but not enough to fit. Like we already had a whole stream plan and Anchor just dropped this morning. I spent all morning just looking at Anchor stuff,
Yeah.
to be fair. It was very interesting.
We'll talk about. Remember this. We'll talk about it next stream maybe,
Yeah,
or in the Discord.
yeah. We've been talking a little on it on the Discord.
Yeah. Okay. For real, for real. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.